Title: The Passenger Who Never Left. I've been driving for a rideshare app for about 3 years now, and I usually take the late-night shifts. They're quieter, the tips are better, and honestly, I enjoy the solitude. But every now and then, something happens that makes me question why I ever got into this job in the first place. This is one of those nights. It was a slow Wednesday, just after 2 a.m. I had been driving for hours and was thinking about calling it a night when I got a request from a spot about 10 minutes away. It wasn't unusual, just a pickup at a bar near the edge of town. When I pulled up, the street was nearly empty, except for a man standing alone under a flickering streetlight. At first glance, nothing seemed off about him. He was wearing a black coat, hands shoved deep into his pockets, and he stood motionless, staring straight ahead. He didn't acknowledge my arrival, which was a little weird, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was drunk or just lost in thought. I unlocked the doors and he slid into the back seat without a word. No greeting, no hello, nothing. I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. His face was pale and his eyes were fixed on something in the distance. His skin looked off, like it was almost too smooth. Something about him made my stomach twist. I cleared my throat. "Hey there, how's your night going?" Silence. I checked my phone for the destination, an address about 15 miles out, toward the outskirts of the city. Not exactly a common drop-off location, but I'd been to stranger places before. We drove in silence for the first few minutes. He never reached for his phone, never adjusted his seat, never did anything but sit stiffly, staring ahead. I tried turning on the radio to break the awkwardness, but as soon as the music played, he spoke for the first time. "Turn it off." His voice was quiet but sharp, like the sound of metal scraping against glass. I swallowed hard and did as he asked. The air in the car felt heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to convince myself that I was overthinking it. Maybe he'd had a rough night. Maybe he just wasn't in the mood for small talk. Then, about 10 minutes into the ride, he leaned forward slightly. "You've been doing this a long time, haven't you?" His voice was so close to my ear it sent a shiver down my spine. I forced a chuckle. "Yeah, a few years now." He didn't respond right away. I could feel his gaze burning into the side of my face. Then he said, "Ever pick up someone who wasn't supposed to be there?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" He leaned back into his seat, exhaling slowly. "Sometimes people get into cars when they shouldn't." My hands tightened around the wheel. I forced myself to keep my eyes on the road. Another minute of silence passed. Then he spoke again. "You missed the turn." I blinked, quickly glancing at the GPS. I hadn't missed anything. We were still on track. "No, Pull over," he interrupted. His tone had changed. It wasn't a request, it was an order. My pulse spiked, but I kept my voice calm. "We're almost at your stop." The air grew colder. My breath fogged slightly, even though the heat was on. I looked up at the rear-view mirror. He was staring at me, unblinking. And then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. His reflection. It was wrong. It wasn't just pale. It was distorted, blurred around the edges like a badly compressed image. I blinked hard, but it didn't change. It was like the mirror was showing something that wasn't actually sitting in my back seat. My hands trembled as I gripped the wheel. "Where?" My voice cracked. "Where are you going?" His lips curled into a slow, unsettling smile. "I've already arrived." A chill ran down my spine. I hit the gas, speeding toward the nearest intersection. My heart pounded against my ribs. "Pull over!" His voice was louder now, more forceful. I ignored him. "Pull over." The car lurched. My foot wasn't on the brake. The entire vehicle shuddered as if something was pressing against it, forcing it to stop. My breath caught in my throat. I jerked my head around. The back seat was empty. The air felt thick, suffocating. The car had come to a complete stop, engine running, but there was no one inside. I whipped around again, frantically searching the darkness outside my windows. Nothing. Just an empty road, stretching endlessly under the dim glow of the streetlights. I slammed my foot on the gas and peeled away from the spot, my heart hammering. I didn't stop until I reached a well-lit gas station, where I parked under the fluorescent glow and tried to catch my breath. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the ignition. I don't know what I picked up that night. I don't know if I even picked up anyone at all. But ever since then, I've kept my rearview mirror angled slightly away from the back seat, just in case.